In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to lose weight for beginners. And this is going to be focusing on nutrition. So if you want help with nutrition for weight loss and you're a beginner in fitness, this is the video for you. So keep watching. So if you're new here, my name is Coach Dan. I'm a certified trainer and nutritionist, and I'm here to help you with your weight loss journey. So let's get into it. So this video is dedicated around 3 core principles or 3 different techniques that you can focus your diet around. So my advice for you is you pick one of these techniques or one of these styles of dieting and use it for your own life. So style number 1 is if it fits your macros, or IIFYM. So what is this style of dieting? So this style of dieting is by tracking your macros and tracking your calories. So what are macros? Macros are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. So how does this work is by, if it fits your macros, is you have a total calorie goal that you have for a day, and you have a macro goal. And how does this magic number come up? So you can get this number either by manually doing it yourself through the calculations or by entering in a calculator. So for most people, I'd suggest entering your numbers into a calculator so it's affected on your age, your gender, your height, and your activity levels, kind of like the main factors that determine how many calories and what your macro should be. However, you can also manually do it if you take your body weight in pounds and you multiply it by either 12, 13, or 14. So that depends on your activity level, right? So 12 is the lower end if you're less active, and then 14 is the higher end. So that gives you your maintenance calories. And then from there, subtract 3 to 500. And I'll explain what that 3 to 500 number is. So a pound of fat is kind of what we want to lose a week. So the goal for weight loss is losing a pound of fat a week. So if we can do that, a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So that means that you have to be in a deficit of 3,500 calories throughout the week. So this can be created by doing 500 every day, right? Because 500 times 7 equals 3,500. So this is the approach that most people take, is by using a 500 calorie deficit on a daily basis. And that's created mainly via nutrition. So it's how many calories you eat. So with if it fits your macros, we also, so we have that number. Let's backtrack. So we have that number. So that's your maintenance calories, and then that's the calories minus 500. So you can either do that manually with your own paper math, or you can do it on an online calculator. You can just type in macro calculator free or free macro calculator, or you can also use MyFitnessPal or MyNet Diary, and it will give you the calories and the macros you should consume based on your stats. So height, weight, gender, and age. So once you get that number, you have to weigh your foods to get how much you eat. So say you eat a chicken, right? Or some chicken or some rice. You have to actually weigh it or quantify the amount you're having. So either you're using cups, so you're like, okay, I ate 1 cup of rice, and you add that into an app like MyFitnessPal. Or you say, oh, I ate, 150 grams of rice. Or you ate, 500 grams of chicken or 100 grams of chicken, right? So that quantity affects the amount of calories in the food, and it also affects the macros. So you'd want to track your calories, right? So most people use MyFitnessPal. It's the most popular app out there for tracking like the calories and the macros you have. So that's one style of dieting. So let me tell you the pros and cons of this. So the pros are it's much more accurate than a lot of other styles of dieting out there. So what I mean by that is I explain 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat, and you're pretty much scientifically hacking, or it's not hacking, but it's scientifically working your way to lose fat versus, guessing your way around fat. So this is like how to actually lose weight, because you understand that a pound of fat is this many calories, and you're decreasing that many calories, and you're sure because you're tracking the quantity via, volume or weight of your food and putting it into an app that tells you the macros. So that's the pro, is it's very accurate. It's kind of like the most accurate you can get from my knowledge of being sure that you will lose weight, as by if it fits your macros or tracking your macros and calories. The downsides, however, is that you have to track, which for most people is very hard, because most people I come across and most clients I work with don't have food skills, which is totally fine. I didn't have a food skill, for many years, and then I finally bought one, and I did if it fits your macros, or tracking your calories and macros for a while. So that's a negative, is that you need a scale. Or you could use, measuring cups. So you could say, oh, I ate 1 cup of this, 1 cup of that, 2 cups of this, half a cup, a quarter cup. But that's also very tedious, and volume measurements is not as accurate as, weight, because I can stack a cup higher than the brim. So it's not, flush. it's a bit higher. So it's kind of like a heaping scoop of this, which, for example, if you do a heaping scoop of rice and there's extra rice and you do it, a couple times a day, that can add up to hundreds of calories that you're, not counting. So, the pros is very accurate, but the cons is that you need a food scale or you need, measuring cups. And it's also it's hard to go out with friends and family when you're doing this style of dieting because you can't really track what you're eating. Another way you can do this is by eating a lot of processed foods, which I've seen a couple of people do if it's your macros with processed foods, but it's tough because it gives you the nutritional facts on all the, like, say, protein bars or different types of processed foods you can have. And you have to kind of use the nutrition label and say, okay, one slice of bread is this, and then one slice of bread is that, and you're manually doing it, or you're adding it into an app. So you're not weighing anything. You're just saying, okay, one bread, one protein bar, and you can do it that way as well. I've seen people do that. But I personally prefer weighing it because it's much more accurate. Another thing I want to mention about if it fits your macros is that the way it works is mainly 80-20. So it's called the 80-20 rule or the 80-20 principle, which is where 80% of those calories that you're eating are coming from clean food sources. And then the 20% is from like junk or treat food sources. So when I talk about that, it's 80%. So the vast majority of your diet is going to be stuff like whole grains and whole foods and low fat meat and stuff like that. So that would comprise 80% of your diet. And then 20% is like your treat foods. So it's whatever everyone has like their favorite treat foods, whether it's like ice cream or chips or chocolate or, all sorts of treat foods, popcorn. So that 20% would be, your cookie that you have late at night or whatever. So that's why it's also a good diet, is because it's not eliminating really anything. So it's just 80-20, the general rule, and you track your calories. Okay, so that's number one. So let me know if you like that style. So that's dieting style number one. Okay, so now we'll move on to dieting style number two. So dieting style number two is a reduction in your feeding window, or you kind of compress. It's called compressed feeding windows. And the best, example of this is intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is very popular around the world, and it is popular for a reason, right? Because it does work because you're skipping a meal, and most meals we consume are hundreds of calories, right? So a good rule of thumb I like to use is that most meals are around 400 to 800 calories if you're eating a meal at home. However, a meal at restaurants can be different. A meal at restaurants could be 1,500, 2,000 calories at just one meal, because there's a lot of stuff that, there's really high fat at restaurants and all that things. So the calories can add up really quick. But meals from home, normally 400 to 800 calories. That's kind of a general rule of thumb. So when you're talking about intermittent fasting, the way it works is people normally skip breakfast, right? But I know others that skip dinner, right? Either one works. But the way it works is, say you're a person and you eat 3 meals a day. So you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. So now you take out breakfast. So say that breakfast was 400 to 800 calories. And if you remember what I said before about how for weight loss, we want 3,500 calorie deficit, which is about 500 calories per day. I know it's a lot of numbers, but just stay with me for a sec. So you subtract either 400 to 800 calories based on how many calories is your breakfast, which gives you a calorie deficit. If you keep your lunch and dinner at the exact same portions, the exact same everything, right? You're subtracting about 400 to 800 calories. So 400 to 800. So 400 to 800 calories is less than you're normally eating. So over time, that adds up to 3,500 calories a week or more, right? Because if you're on the higher end, it may be 4,000 calories that you didn't eat that week, or 5,000 that you didn't eat that week, which is great because then you'll lose more weight. Obviously, you don't want the number to be too high, because then it would be, you'll kind of be like starving. So you do not want to starve yourself for weight loss. You want to just get by. You want to just remove as little as little as possible to lose the weight. You don't want to like cut everything out your diet, okay? So that's how intermittent fasting works. So this is very popular. I personally have tried it myself. I've tried all the styles I will talk about in this video, and I like it, but it doesn't really work if you need, high performance. So if your goal is, okay, I really want to work hard, sometimes it doesn't always work for that, because you need food to perform. Or for example, I myself prefer to eat at normal increments throughout the day, as opposed to, one huge meal or 2 huge meals. I'd rather have incremental meals. So performance, some people do perform better on intermittent fasting. They say, it works better for them because, they have, they're not focusing on food so much and that stuff, but it's personal opinion. So my personal opinion is it doesn't work well for performance, but that's just me. So let me go over the pros and cons. I kind of talked a little bit there, but let me go over the pros and cons about intermittent fasting. So you have the pro is that you don't really track calories, or you don't track, you don't weigh your foods, right? So the method I mentioned before, if it fits your macros, is tracking calories. So you have to weigh it. You have to weigh your foods, or you have to, have some way of measuring your food. So it's via a cup, like volume, or, weight. And that can get annoying sometimes. So with intermittent fasting, you don't actually do that. You just cut out breakfast or you cut out dinner. Some people prefer either one, but it's up to you to decide which one you want to do. That's the pro. The cons, however, is that, if you have a busy life and you need the energy and you want to have normal incremental feeding windows or normal times that you want to eat, then that diet won't necessarily work for you. But yeah, so that's the pros and cons of intermittent fasting. So that's diet strategy or diet approach number 2. So the third diet strategy or diet approach that, is very popular in the world right now as well is an elimination diet. So there's various forms of the elimination diet, but the very popular ones I've seen are like a keto diet or a modified keto diet, a carnivore diet, gluten-free diets, and all sorts of stuff like that. So they cut out a food group, dairy-free diet, stuff like that. So you're eliminating a food group. So the way this works as well is because, say example, the keto diet. A lot of the keto diet is, so keto diet, if you don't know, is like a low carb diet. It's very low carb. And you can do modified keto, so you could go higher or lower. So some people do 0 carbs, which is kind of like not really the best approach to dieting, but some people do prefer doing that. So the reason this does work on an elimination diet is because you're eliminating a whole type of food group. And it works well because you don't track calories. Once again, most people do not track calories on elimination diet. They just eliminate the food. And this is really good for people with food intolerances or food allergies or food sensitivities. So for example, if you have digestive issues, or you have, you have an intolerance, so you're getting hives or you're getting bumps, or you have an allergy or to some food. So a lot of people, like that's like gluten-free people, say, oh, they have a gluten intolerance, or, oh, they get digestive issues when they have dairy. That would be the approach for someone who is in that, camp of people who has, digestive issues or intolerances and allergies to certain foods. So some people cut out dairy, some people cut out carbs, some people cut out gluten, some people cut out, sugary drinks and sugary beverages and, sweets. So they cut out sugar. So that's an elimination style diet. So what's the pro is that you don't really track anything. You just cut out stuff. So those are the common ones. People cut out carbs. So it does reduce your overall calorie consumption, because instead of eating those carbs, you're now eating meat and protein, stuff like that. And proteins and fats are more satiating than carbohydrates. So that's the reason it works. That's a pro. And then the cons is that, can you do this long term? All right. It's something that most people on the elimination diet don't think. Can I logically cut out rice for the rest of my life? Can I cut out bread? Can I cut out, fruits? Can I cut whatever you eliminate in that diet? Can you cut out gluten for the rest of your life? Or for, maybe not the rest of your life, but say like 1 year, 6 months. Can you cut out gluten, or can you cut out carbs, or can you cut out sugary, foods for that long, right? Because dieting, again, is all about longevity. And I know that for myself, I've switched through many dieting styles in my life. I've tried all 3 of these, and I'll give you my verdict at the end about my personal favorite out of all these. And, but, everyone has a different opinion. Even if you go family to family, country to country, people eat differently in different countries, right? So, Asia, Europe, and a lot of places in the world eat, predominantly carbohydrate diets. So to tell someone like that, hey man, or hey girl, you got to go on a keto diet, it's like, what? You're going to cut out their entire, main food source and say, no, now you can only eat, nuts and seeds and steak and chicken and fish. It's very hard for them to do that. So if you're a type of person that has eaten carbs all your life, I wouldn't suggest cutting out carbs, and I wouldn't suggest, straight out just cutting stuff. But that's the elimination diet. So I kind of give away, but I personally don't like the elimination diet too much, but it does work for weight loss. So personally myself, I don't like elimination. And the one I do like is If It Fits Your Macros, or IIFYM. That's my personal favorite because I've seen it work for clients across the board, like across different countries, different dieting styles. People just type what they eat in the app, and as long as you're eating below that calorie range and, within those macro ranges, so it doesn't have to be exactly on the dot that you hit your macros, but if you come in close to those ranges of like protein, carbs, and fats, then you're doing well. So that's my personal favorite, If It Fits Your Macros, for weight loss for most people. But elimination diet is a good one. And same with reducing your feeding windows, or, constricting your feeding windows, which is intermittent fasting. And I've had other clients too that do like intermittent fasting. They find it's just, more helps them be more productive, or they're not hungry in the morning, or they just like it better to do it that way. So if that sounds like you, try that. So to overview once again of these 3 styles, and then I'll get into some additional tips. So to overview these 3 styles, intermittent fasting, intermittent fasting, If It Fits Your Macros, and then elimination diet. So if you're a beginner, you want to pick one of those 3 styles. Okay, so for the next extra tips, we're going to be talking about additional tips that you can take for weight loss. So this is if you're a beginner and you don't want to take one of those 3 approaches, or you do, but you can also implement this as well. So one of the big tips is reducing your portion size. So this works really well because it's applicable for everyone. You can just take your breakfast, lunch, and dinner and slightly reduce every portion. So say you eat 2 slices of toast. Okay, now try to eat 1.5. You don't have to eat half a slice of toast. But if you normally eat 2, try eating 1.5. If you normally have 2 cans of Coke or 3 cans of Coke, try having 1. If you have, and mainly this is for, reducing your consumption of carbohydrates. So you want to keep your protein sizes, generally speaking, the same. So if you're eating chicken or fish or eggs, generally keep that the same, but your portion sizes are mainly coming from your carbohydrates or your, like your sweets. So if you have a bag of chips, a family size bag of chips, have a smaller bag of chips, like an individual package of them. So that's one tip, is reduce portion sizes. Very helpful tip. It's a very underrated tip, and it's very helpful that most people don't even think about, but it's simple because wherever you come from in the world, you can just slowly decrease or slightly decrease your portion sizes. So it doesn't matter what you're eating, but slightly decrease the portion size, and ideally from the carbohydrates. So from your rice, your pastas, your beans, stuff like that. So that is that tip. So next we're going to do decreasing the size of your plates or your bowls or whatever you eat off of. So most people eat off of plates or bowls. So have a smaller bowl than last time, or have a smaller plate than last time. And what this will do is that if you're eating smaller portions and you're eating smaller plate, or you're eating smaller portions and you put it on a smaller plate, it's going to look small. You're going to see it's going to look small. So a trick to kind of trick your brain is put it on a smaller plate or use a smaller bowl, and this will make the food look the same. It's going to look visibly the same, size of portion, and you're not going to notice that it's any less than you normally are used to. So it really works well for plates and bowls to make it smaller with reducing the size of your meals. Another tip is to use smaller utensils, or use a different style of utensil. So if you're normally used to eating with a spoon, try eating with chopsticks. And that will definitely slow down your rate of eating, which will kind of make you be more mindful of what you're eating, as opposed to just, shoveling food down your mouth. You're going to be faster, you're not going to be faster, you're going to be slower at it. So you're going to be more mindful with what you're eating, and you'll enjoy your food more, obviously. So, if you normally eat with a spoon, eat with chopsticks, or, eat with your left hand is another one, or your off hand. So if you normally write with your right hand, use your left hand, or vice versa. So that's one tip. You can also use smaller utensils. So if you normally eat with like a huge spoon, try eating with a smaller spoon, and this will really help because you can't eat as fast as well, right? So you can enjoy your food more. Last tip is to eat distraction free. So I know in today's society, we all eat with our phones in front of us. We watch other people, be it on YouTube, on Netflix, or you listen to podcasts, you listen to music. We all have our phones in front of us mainly to eat. So I suggest you try this, try to avoid distractions while you eat. So eat, be centered, just sit there by yourself, or sit with a friend or family member, and try no phones. and see, how much you eat and listen to your hunger cues and everything like that. So that always works because it makes people, be more in tune with the food as opposed to, in tune with technology and stuff like that. So those are some tips. So yeah, you want to take one of those styles of dieting approach. So we have the intermittent fasting one, which is reducing your feeding windows. We have if it fits your macros, or tracking your calories and macro consumption and reducing that by 300 to 500. Or we have the elimination diet. So that's stuff like reducing or like eliminating carbohydrates, or eliminating sugary stuff, or eliminating dairy and stuff like that. So those are your three top ways to diet, in my opinion. I've seen it work for, all body types and stuff like this. Those three are kind of like the core that everyone kind of falls back on. And you can try all three if you want, but those are kind of my favorites in terms of effectiveness. So if you look at effectiveness of diets and stuff like that, those three are, generally speaking, the more effective ways for beginners. Keep in mind, not advanced people, but this is more for beginners to lose, their first 10 pounds. To lose the first 15 pounds is via these strategies for losing weight. So those are the three styles of dieting. Pick one of those and try it. Don't try for one day. Try for, at least, I'd say at least 4 weeks is kind of like the minimum commitment you need to make. So 30 days or 1 month. It's a style of dieting to see if you like it or not. And obviously, if you don't like it the third day you do it, you don't have to do it the entire time. It's just kind of like a guideline in terms of what works and what I've seen work and what I've seen not work. So in terms of beginners, those are the dieting strategies that work. Okay. So, I really hope that helped you, and I really hope that you do. That's my hope, is that you take this knowledge and you apply it to your life, or you share this video with your family member who, is struggling with weight loss and really needs a dieting tip or a dieting approach to, losing weight. That's my really one hope, is for you to take away with something that you can apply. So let me know in the comments down below what dieting strategy you're going to try. And if you made it all this way, you're a real one. You're really here to learn, and you're awesome. Very few people, I know very few people actually make it to the end of this video. It's going to be a small number, but you're awesome and you're great, and you will achieve your goal of losing weight. So I'm Coach Dan, and it's been a pleasure spending the time talking with you here. And the next episode, we're going to be talking about workouts. So it's going to be workouts for weight loss in terms of beginners. So, stay tuned for that one, and see you in the next one.